Let's Talk About Myths, baby is sponsored by Signature Hardware. If you're looking for that perfect item to take your kitchen, bathroom, or just your house up a notch, head over to signaturehardware.com. They have, honestly, some of the most beautiful housewares I've ever seen. The vanities, oh my god, vanities. Who knew they could be so absolutely stunning? And I am a big bathtub person, so yes, I've just longingly scrolled through all of their bathtub options because why not? They've got beautiful bathroom furnishings and kitchen furnishings. You could get an incredible rain shower, or a beautiful farmhouse sink, or maybe just a beautiful one of those things that hangs over your bathtub so you can have a glass of wine. I've actually picked out 8 different furnishings that really stood out to me on Signature Hardware. They're my style. I just love them. They're absolutely just goals. See for yourself at signaturehardware.com/myths. You will be amazed at the variety and the quality. Oh, hello, dear listeners. This is Let's Talk About Myths, baby. And I'm Liv, your friendly neighborhood nerd, who's a little loopy today, so bear with me. Well, I know I said last week that I'd be back this week with the finale to Euripides' Bacchae, but, well, I'm not, because I almost forgot that I haven't yet finished off the Zodiac constellations. I'd put off Virgo to wait until Libra because they're crazy connected, and then, oh man, did I almost forget to finally finish it off. It is, of course, October, and I wanted to do something spooky, but there are only so many hours in the day. Plus, it's Canadian Thanksgiving, so I have much less time to write this episode than I normally would, what with, family and things. And with that, I've laid out all my excuses. But basically next week, we'll be back with the finale of the Bacchae, amongst hopefully some other spooky things, and then more spooky to come. But first, I have an announcement. 1, happy Canadian Thanksgiving. By the time this comes out, it will have been yesterday, but still, I'm writing it on Thanksgiving and recording it on Thanksgiving, so happy Canadian Thanksgiving. As I wrote on Twitter, the one that makes more sense because it's a comfortable amount of time away from the December holidays, and as someone else pointed out, is actually at harvest time. So, basically, the real Thanksgiving. But the real thing I want to announce today is for my Vancouver listeners. So listen up. And that's Vancouver, British Columbia. Some of you online thought I meant Vancouver, Washington. And come on. Process of elimination, friends. I'm Canadian. Vancouver's Canadian. It's much bigger. Anyway, Vancouver, BC, the Canadian one, the big one, the famous one. You people, listen up. I will be doing my first ever live podcast recording at the Vancouver Podcast Festival. I'm terrified. It's Sunday, November 10th, and I will be performing on the free event stage in the library, the one downtown, at 12:30 p.m. Again, it's free, so I really hope you all, whoever lives in or around and can, please come and show that library that I've got some badass listeners. Also, I'm nervous as hell, and my anxiety is through the fucking roof. So having some listeners there will help immensely. You can head to my website for more information, mythsbaby.com, or just Google the Vancouver Podcast Festival. And with that out of the way, I give you the last of the Zodiac constellation episodes, the one some of you have been waiting for. Mini-myth, Zodiac constellations, Astraea, the Virgin, and her scales, Virgo and Libra. The constellation Virgo is most often associated with a woman named Astraea. Some say she's a titan, others a goddess, but by all accounts, she's immortal. Sometimes the daughter of Zeus and Themis, the titan associated with law and order. Other times the daughter of Eos, goddess of the dawn, and Astraeus, titan of the dusk. Based on that interpretation, it seems to me that Astraea was always meant to be in the stars. What else could you be if your mother was the dawn and your father the dusk? In all versions, though, Astraea is a goddess of justice. There seems to be more than one goddess of justice. Her mother Themis, while a titan, is the most famous. She's more law and order, though, sort of that more lawyerly concept, maybe. And there's yet another who Astraea is closely associated with. Her name is Dike, and from what I can understand, she is a goddess who came later in ancient Greece's mythology. Of course, because these gods and goddesses and the concept they were associated with developed as a society, as Greece was developing as a society, evolving and growing, all that, so did those gods and goddesses, so sometimes it's kind of hard to track. The Greeks changed immensely over hundreds of years, so it would only make sense that the people they worshipped would change and evolve too. One source, though, just says that Dike is another name for Astraea, and they're the same, or it's a later goddess of justice, or who the hell knows? This is a magnificent instance of just how convoluted and confusing Greek mythology can be. By most accounts, though, Astraea's story comes from the golden age of humans. Many of the ancient Greeks who wrote about these things, and Romans too, discuss various so-called ages. Depending on who you're reading, these could be phases in humanity, or they could include different types of people altogether. Giants or people made of gold, there are many variations, but the through line is the concept of these ages itself. These times of humanity when it was better or worse than others. More impressive, more innovative, when humans were pure and good or otherwise. I think we can safely say that we're now in the age of, sludge or something. We're innovative, sure, but at what cost? But I'm not here to tell you about how unchecked capitalism is going to be the end of us. No, this is about Virgo. Astraea spends most of her time on Earth during this golden age, this height of humanity. According to the mythology, it's when humans were at their absolute best, their purest, their least violent, just all the good things. And though she's a goddess of justice, there's little for her to do because this world is so good. She hangs out with the people, suggesting things when necessary. Maybe don't punish that guy quite as harshly, she might suggest. She enjoys herself. It's a good time hanging out with these humans who didn't do much wrong. But the Golden Age can't last forever, and people begin slowly evolving. Next is the Silver Age, where things aren't quite as good, but also not quite as bad as they're going to get. Astraea, during this age, spends less time with the humans. She gets herself a place farther out of town, where she can avoid them a little bit more easily. But she still pays attention. She provides guidance when it comes to these justice-related matters, whenever they need it, but she's less invested. But like I said, even this age can't last forever. After a while, the humans once more begin evolving, this time into what we know now. People who start wars, take over land by force, who commit murders and other crimes. This is what the Greeks called the Bronze Age, the age of weapons. Lawlessness reigns, and Astraea isn't having it. She doesn't, though, try to change it. I don't know if she finds it fruitless or she's just too fed up. Either way, she simply leaves. The goddess flies up into the sky, where Zeus installs her as the constellation Virgo, the Virgin. I guess she never got any down on Earth, and as a result, the name of the constellation is the Virgin. Seems to me it would make more sense to name it something about her as a person. She had a personality. But are we surprised? According to Ovid, Astraea is the last immortal to leave Earth. Before the Bronze Age, he says the immortals associated with humans far more often, even living among them. But slowly, immortals began to leave, finding other places to live, whether Olympus or otherwise, just away from those pesky and difficult humans. Until finally, it was only Astraea left. Even she, this concept of justice, couldn't manage living through the Bronze Age. As for the constellation Libra, I'm sorry to say that it may have even less of a story than Virgo, though at least it does have a couple of options. According to many, Libra is the scales, those scales held by Virgo, by Astraea. They're the scales of justice, and so very much associated with her. The scales held by Astraea are similar to what we know now as being held by this Lady Justice concept, the woman with the blindfold. She's often associated with Themis, but Themis didn't have the blindfold. Or really the scales? I'm unsure. According to this version, the scales were placed in the sky alongside Astraea as this constellation Libra. That's certainly what we know of now, what we consider Libra to be. But the constellation has also been determined not to be a set of scales, but instead claws. Yes, claws. Of course, today Libra is very much a set of scales, like I said, but in this ancient world, they weren't so sure. According to my edition of Eratosthenes and Hyannis's constellation myths, the scales were originally the claws of the scorpion of Scorpio. They explain that the constellation of Scorpio was so big that it was divided into two constellations, Scorpio and its claws, Libra. Suppose the scales might also resemble Scorpion's claws, or it's just that stretch, when you look at a picture of a constellation and what they believe it looked like, and it's like, that's 4 stars, and then you just drew a person over top. These guys note that the claws have come to be known as the scales now, so perhaps it's that originally they were a scorpion's claws, and then once they determined that the other constellation next to it was Virgo, it made sense to associate those stars with her set of scales? Is it either? Is it both? It's hard to say what any old ancient Greek person believed, but I do like that this one constellation can be seen as things as vastly different as a set of scales or a set of claws. Really just emphasizes how much they made up for fun. Staring up at the stars, thinking, what vague thing could we decide that those looked like? What insane myth could that have come from? Who got put up into the stars, and by whom? Oh, nerds, thank you all for listening. I'm sorry this one was a little short. Like I said, Thanksgiving and so many things going on. Excuses live. Anyway, just bear with me. One final note on the zodiac constellations. In the ancient Greek, the word was zodiakos, or they'd call it the zodiakos kirklos, which means circle of small animals. Yeah, so fun. Though kind of confusing when you think of the number of humans that were included in the zodiac, and it's not at all applicable to Libra. Sorry, guys. This has been such a fun series to do, so thank you all for coming along for the zodiac ride. It's always been fascinating to me that some of the constellations have these full, incredible, interesting stories, so much for me to tell you all. It was like real episodes, while others are like, it's some scales. I feel somewhat disappointing to the people with those as their zodiac signs, but what can you do? The ancient Greeks did some weird shit. Next week we'll really be back with the rest of the Bacchae, and then the final episode before Halloween be full of murder and magic. Anyway, also for you Patreon patrons listening, or anyone who's been considering it, I'm going to be doing a very special Halloween Patreon episode in the next couple of weeks. I've just learned that I have what seems to be enough content for something I never thought I'd get to tell. Stories of haunted houses and ghost stories from ancient Greece. Yeah, haunted houses and ghost stories from ancient Greece. I'm not even necessarily talking about mythology. We're talking about real haunted houses. Anyway, as usual, rate, review, subscribe, do all the things, or just listen. That's cool too. You're all the best. Thank you always. I am Liv, And I do love this shit.